You're welcome. In this part, we'll talk more on the brushes and their settings, and we'll discuss the important tools and settings you need to apply while using FlipAClip. Before we start, please note I'm using a pro version of FlipAClip, so I have all my brushes unlocked and some other premium features as well. Now let's dive in. Now if I click on our pen tool, you see this icon, and if you click on it, there is a whole lot of brushes for you to use, different brushes for different functions, and they all have this function. If you click on this arrow over here at the right, now before I talk on the brushes, I would like to introduce something, the stabilizer. It helps to smoothen your lines as you draw the canvas. So the default value is 20%. The more increase this value to, let's say, 50, the more smoother your lines will be, and it kind of automatically applies an offset while you are drawing to make your line more smooth. So if you increase this value to 100, your lines will be more smooth and accurate than when it's set to 0 or lesser value. Now let me make a simple illustration real quick. Since you are familiar with adding layers, I'm going to add one now. Then I'm going to add an image. Okay, now I'll go back to layer 1. Then I'll reduce the opacity of this layer 4 by reducing it by dragging the values. Okay, now if we're about to trace this, okay, we are in layer 1. Now let's set our stabilizer to 0. Then if you trace this, you can see when the value is set to 0, it's not that good. So let's undo this, or then we set our value to 50, let's say 51, then repeat the same action. Now you can see how accurate our lines are, and they are very smooth than what we did the first time. Now let me undo this. Then I'll set the value to 100. Now you can see. Now you can see how smooth the lines are and accurate they are. So that's for the stabilizer. Now if we head back to our brushes, there are lots of brushes for you to use. If you have the premium feature unlocked, you can use any of them at any time. You can also set the transparency of your brush by decreasing this value. If it's 0, it's totally transparent, while if it's 100, it's fully opaque. You can play with this value. You can select the color of your brush to the one you want, any color you want. You can also do that from your canvas by decreasing this value to 0 to make it fully transparent. You can still increase it to increase the opacity and reduce it to increase the transparency. You can use that same button to select your color like you did from the brush panel. Now talking about the brushes, they are classified into 5 groups, which are the ones used for solid lines, the ones used for transition, the ones used for shading, the ones used for texture, and the special brushes. Now talking about the solid brushes that are used to create solid, bold lines on your canvas, and these brushes are commonly used for artwork. And examples of them, we have the pen, which is the default selected. Then we have the pen, also the Sharpie, we have the brush, we have the pixel, we have the ink, then we have the calligraphy, and we have the dip pen. These are used to give solid, bold lines to your animation. These are solid brushes looks like. Let me go to another one. Let me go to my Shopee. These are the look. And this is the pixel. This is used to give retro effects. Now you can see how solid they are. Ink. And then me over to my brush. You can see this is an example of solid brushes. Now for transition brushes, they are ideal for creating delicate line work and also transcending from a thicker brush to a thin, lighter one. An example of that is the soft pen. Maybe if you are using the pen, now for example, let me turn on my ruler and I do this. Sorry, and I do this. And I want to transcend from this brush to a transition brush. I will do this. Now turn it off. Now you can see this effect. It can be used for drawing the lips of a person, or maybe you are drawing like if somebody is wearing glasses and maybe you want to give it that realistic effect, you can use these transition brushes to give that look. Now talking about shading brushes, they are perfect for achieving those lifelike textures and adding in depth to your character or artwork. Let's say if you want to add shadow to your character, the shading brushes, they are perfect for that job. And examples of them, we have the airbrush darker, we have the pencils, all the different categories of pencils, the HB, 6B. So now if I select my pencil, now you can see that shading effect I'm trying to make. Yeah. So these are perfect for adding those textures to your animation. Now talking about the texture brushes that are used to add texture and depth to your animation and also give those realistic visuals to your artwork. Examples of these brushes are, we have the spray, the stipple, the grain, rough pen, halftone, all the categories on halftone. Then we have the air, that's a special texture brush. We have four, we have grunge, we have the sprinkles, the dots, the squares, static, dash, saw, and the rest of them. These are the texture brushes. Now let me give a few illustrations on them. Now this for the spray, can be used to add texture to clothes or any other object. Now let me go back to this stipple. This one gives this rough effect, this rough texture. Then let me go back to the halftone section. Now you can see this texture. To be good for maybe clothing, maybe for your artwork. Then over to these ones, these dots, the squares, and this dash, and the rest of them. Then we have the special one on this category, which is the airbrush. It can be used to stimulate air on your artwork to give that character that air texture you want. What I'm going to draw a character with all these different types of brush and then explain and illustrate more. Now for the special brushes, they can be used to add texture to your animation as well as adding gradients to your artwork. Now examples of them, we have the gradient, the mosaic, the sparkle, the leaves, the 3D brush, and the 3D cane. Now let me show you how the gradient looks like. Now this is the gradient. Let me increase the size. And this is the gradient. This eye looks cool. Then for the mosaic, looks like this. That's the texture and that gradient. Then for the sparkle, gives that sparkling effect. Let me increase the size, and you can see. And for the leaves, adding leaves to that artwork. Then for the 3D brush, gives a 3D look. You can see how it looks. Then the 3D cane, and this how it looks. So that's for the special brushes. So I'm going to create a character with all these different categories of brushes and then illustrate. Okay, now here is the simple illustration I made of this character. Now you can see I use the solid brushes to get the structure of the character. Then if I turn on layer 1, now you can see I use the transition brushes to get these glasses. If I turn off my layer 4, okay, layer 2, now you can see what I did there. I use the transition brushes to get these glasses. Now if I turn on layer 2, you can see how it goes. You can see. Now if I turn on layer 3, here you can see I use the shading brushes to give this shadow kind of look. Then I used the texture to get this kind of material. You can see. Then I use the special brushes on the right hand side to get this special look, this kind of realistic look. Then I used the airbrush, which another texture to simulate this air. You can see. So this is the combination of all the types of brushes. So that's all on the brushes. Hope now you understand how to combine all the categories of brushes in your animation and artwork. Remember to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to get notified.